Hey, good morning.
Good morning. My phone took a little bit longer to tune in this morning.
How is everyone doing? You know, Jennifer, I always like to share on multiple platforms.
Yes.
So bear with me.
And you know what? I should have had you. Hi, Bridget. I should have had you do this for me. Turn the light on, because there we go.
There you go. Hey, Jessica.
Hey, that's better.
Hey, Fee. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Hi, Christy. Oh, Christy's tuning in from the West Coast.
John.
She's one of my San Diego girls. And I bet that she is going through some of the same stresses that Bridget is going through here in South Carolina. With this changeover in the seasons that we started talking about on our last show. And now we're like in the thick of it, right?
Yes.
So we're running a little late today. And the reason that we're running a little late today is because of exactly what we want to talk about today.
Acute stress.
Acute stress in the moment. I was stuck in some pretty major traffic this morning.
I was reporting said major traffic this morning.
And she did not bother to text me
I
to
forgot.
tell me.
I was telling all the viewers of the
That's
Low
okay.
Country. So
Yeah.
this morning there was a really bad accident along I-26 in eastbound. You guys probably saw my Facebook page earlier. I did a Facebook Live about it. It's happened right around 6:30 or so, maybe a little after 6:30, and it didn't clear until almost 9 o'clock this morning. So it caused major delays. The drive times from Somerville to downtown
it's
Charleston
still not cleared.
were like 2 hours, over like almost 2 hours. And so, you know, it kind of put a
Hi,
damper.
Stephanie. Stephanie is tuning in from California too, but she is originally from South Carolina.
Hey,
We got
Stephanie.
some early birds out there in California this morning.
So we are talking about acute stress for those of you just tuning in. And so we were talking about the different stresses that we're facing and the changes of the seasons. Not seasons from an environmental standpoint, but like the seasons in life. Like with, you know, things, people going back to work, going back to college,
Going back
you
to
know.
K through 12 school, which
Right.
is what's going on in Cane Bay that's causing some major issues.
I don't have a child, so I don't really go back to school, but football season starts, which changes my workload on Fridays because I sideline report some football games. So last
that's
Friday,
exciting.
where normally I would be off and done with my day around noon, I couldn't think about that because I knew I had to go back to work. I had to go to Fort Dorchester, which I had a really good time, so I'm not complaining at all. But it's just a change in my normal routine because that's something that's added now that school's back in session.
Well, and also, even if you don't have kids and you're living in a neighborhood where there are schools, you are affected by the traffic.
Yeah.
So first day back to school, it took half an hour to get out of Cane Bay. It normally takes 10 minutes from my house. For those of people who are living way at the back of the neighborhood, it must have taken them 45 minutes. I don't know.
Well, you know, I work these strange hours, so I'm never really impacted by traffic.
Yeah.
I just tell you guys about it in the morning.
Yeah.
I'll tell you where it's going to be jacked up at and to allow extra drive time. And if you haven't already, download the Waze app, join our Waze Around team, and you too can help us track traffic every single morning. Okay, so we want to know from you guys, do you guys have any stressors in your life right now? Do you have anything that is causing maybe some strain in your world? And the reason why we're asking, hey Marcus, hey Jessica, and we are asking you guys is because we want to hear from you. This Wellness Wednesday is about you guys. Now we could sit here and talk about everything that bothers us till we're blue in the face, or you know, but it's not always about us. And so we want to make sure that as we talk about some different, you know, tactics that you can use, that we're helping you guys as well. So
That's exactly, that would help us so much. I've written over 100 blogs on stress. So yeah, I can talk about stress all day long and how to help with it. But even in those 100 blogs, I may not have touched on something that is pertinent to you today.
right. Hey Lauren. And so yes, we want to make sure that we're doing that. So
Kristen is we're all over the country today because Kristen's joining us from Florida. And don't you have some people from the Midwest?
I don't know who's on here right now. Say hey if you're on here so I can know who you are, so I can know where you guys are from. I know we have some folks from up in DC watching right now. Dee's in DC. So, Jen, what I want to ask you is, when we have days like this, and you know, I'm sure, like, you know, the traffic has rearranged essentially your morning because we were supposed to meet downtown, but because like it pushed, the traffic affected both of us. It pushed our day behind. We started this a little later than we intended to. We didn't get to meet meet in the location that we.
Right.
And I really love our location, by the way. Anyways,
yeah, we normally meet in this beautiful meditation studio, but hey, it's cool to be in the TV studio, right?
In a very serene spot, but I've been in the TV studio for the last 7 hours, so I could have used a break from the TV station. But when we have situations like this and we find ourselves under unexpected stress, what should we do to kind of cope with that, to make sure that we're not letting that moment consume our entire day?
So the first thing I always recommend is to assess your abilities to go with the flow. Mm-hmm. Now, it may be that you have got to be at a meeting. Well, can you control whether you're going to make it there on time or not? No. You may have to get on your Bluetooth connected phone and say, you know what, I'm going to be late, guys. Please start without me. It's really essential to be flexible. So that's kind of the first thing that I always go to is, okay, how can I be flexible and rearrange this? But physiologically, we need to do some things for ourselves too. Mm-hmm. So guess what? That whole thing about take a deep breath and count to 10, that's real. I know it sounds like it's trite and a cliche, but it's not. The breath allows us to encourage the relaxation effect, whether we want it to or not. It works behind the scenes in our body. Big word. It works with the parasympathetic nervous system. It just works behind the scenes.
Okay.
So if you are sitting in traffic, and here's a classic example from this morning. I'm on the on-ramp coming down onto the freeway. The interstate is what we call it here. And most people are merging kind of normally, but yeah, it's
merging
definitely
is a problem no matter what city you live in.
Or state, yeah. But there's always the people that they want to go up the emergency lane and butt in up ahead, which actually is very dangerous. It can cause accidents. Well, back in the day, I used to get so frustrated about these people. Right? What is wrong with these people that they're doing this, right? Now, I just have to take a deep breath and say, well, they're going to do what they're going to do. And I'm going to merge in a safe way. And again, it's about being in control of yourself. We cannot control what those other people are going to do. I cannot control that people in Cane Bay are going to honk at me because I'm letting somebody else pull out.
Right. So
I
find myself when I'm dealing with stressors is to apply the whole theory with don't worry about the things that I cannot control. I kind of just let go in certain situations. Like I found myself yesterday in this moment. I was having some anxiety about some unknown, right? And I realized that this was actually quite silly to be worrying about something where I have no control over the situation or the outcome, and also I have no idea if it's even going to happen. So I was letting my Tuesday go by without even enjoying it because I was worried about something that may or may not even happen. And so I just stopped.
Was this a what if?
Yeah, it's like a what if. Like, well, what if this happens? Or what if this happens? Or what if this happens? Or what if that happens? And I'm like, girl, it is Tuesday. Enjoy it. I messed up my brain, you guys.
Yeah, the what ifs. In the coaching world, we talk about how the what ifs can turn into actual catastrophizing.
Right.
And that's where the what ifs go from being kind of this annoyance to being really acute stress where it can harm your health, where you're going, what if this happens? I might, whatever.
Right.
And we want to be very, very careful of that because as Megan said, we don't know. Mm-hmm. We don't know what's going to happen. Nope. And in my almost 49 years now, I have been in places where I have what ifed and what ifed and what ifed. And you know what? Life goes down, life goes up. And the what ifs, the bad stuff, it does happen sometimes.
It does?
Yeah.
It's inevitable.
I'm not going to sugarcoat anything and say, that stuff isn't going to happen. It's not. But
quite possible.
When you use your peaceful living wellness, when you use your empowered through peace techniques, the stuff we're talking about here, that's when we can also weather the bad stuff. So maybe it's a traffic accident. Traffic accidents happen. It could be even something as much as I lost a house in the crash of 2008. We lost everything. Those what ifs really happened, but we survived through it. And that's where the stuff we're talking about today really comes in. one of the things that I like to talk to people about that I think is probably the most important value, the most important technique for weathering these storms, whether it's the traffic or whether it's something big like losing a house and what goes on around you, is looking into your values. What are your true values? When I was losing the house, somebody who is still one of my best friends, she was my next door neighbor at the time, she said, Jen, it's just a house. It's just something material.
I don't know how I would have responded in that moment. Just the house is my house, you know?
Yeah. And it was like my dream house.
Yeah.
It's just a house. And I had to go into what my values were. My son had just come through kidney surgery as an infant. My daughter was already starting to struggle with some of her health issues. And I had to think about it in that, what's more important, a house or my kids?
Right.
What's more important, a house or my mental well-being? When it comes to...
For my moms out there, can you guys relate to this? You know, understanding, you know, putting emphasis and importance on your children. I don't have kids, but I love my niece and my nephew, and they're like almost mine. So anyways.
But I want people
yeah.
to go beyond just their children. I mean, that's kind of a given, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's not. Do you see some of the articles I post? Everybody does not love their kids.
Oh, I know. That's
it's like,
true.
Like we need to test some,
That's
people
true.
pass some tests before they, reproduce, because everyone doesn't love their children. But yeah, I think that being a mom is a different level of stress. I mean, like being a woman in itself is just stressful from day to day. But I can't imagine, I look at my sister. My sister has 2 children, and there's a different level of stress because she goes to work and then she goes home and she's has to go straight into mommy mode because she has 2 little ones. She has a 3-year-old and an 18-month-old. They don't stop talking.
They don't.
Love them to death. Love them to death.
They need lots of care.
Yeah, but I mean, and you can, like you said, how you
minor
had
teens.
Yeah, but even going through health challenges at early ages and having to deal with that, and then having to find the skill sets to push through.
Well, and I think that brings us back to that it's not just about the kids. And one of the reasons I'm kind of fussy about that is because I see parents lose themselves in their kids. And I want to always remind moms, as well as individuals, that we have to value ourselves. We have to value our self-care. So as a single person, you might become so involved in work that you stop valuing yourself. We just talked about, when was the last time you took a vacation? And it was the last time she took some time off was over 6 months ago. Yeah. And so if we value ourselves, feel like it too. Yeah, right? Yeah. If we value ourselves, we are then able to say, hey, I don't need to honk back. I don't need to flip this guy the bird. I don't need to what if myself, because I value myself too much. Mm-hmm.
We have one comment. Fiora says, "Yeah, my sister has 2 children, and it's like her day never ends."
Yeah.
Right. I you know what? I don't have kids, and sometimes it feels like my day never ends. Yeah. So what causes a lot of stress, in my life is responding. So I'm not a texter or an email. It's just not my preferred form of communication. I know I'm a millennial, and it should be, but I don't like it. I currently have 215 unread text messages. Ooh. And that doesn't give me anxiety at all because I don't feel any need, or I'm not compelled whatsoever to respond to not one more of those messages. And so
I am glad you responded to mine.
I do. And I think about things like I read a message yesterday, and it was actually from a friend of mine, and I had every intentions of responding, but at the time I was doing my hair, and I was what else was I doing? I was on the phone. I was doing my hair. I was putting some conditioner or something in it. And I read the message, and then I put my phone down, and I never responded. And I didn't remember until 4 o'clock this morning. So I sent a message, and I was like, hey, so sorry. Literally just thought about this. Just remember that you texted me. But, I wish people would talk to me, because that could create some stress in my life, because I don't like texting.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't like emailing, and I get a lot of emails from work, and people are like, oh, did you see this email? And it's like, well, I think people not having respect sometimes for my schedule also annoys me, and it causes stress in my life, because I know people think, oh, you get off at 11 or 12, you have all day. No, I'm tired. Yeah. I'm tired. I gotta sleep.
So I'm gonna play coach here a little bit.
Okay, so play coach.
I'm
getting coached.
When you have certain things that are important to you, and you need to have some boundaries around modes of communication is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
What can you do to help set those boundaries?
I really don't know, because see, what I've found is that if I don't answer the phone or text back or check my email, I miss something important. And I can't put my phone, I put my phone on vibrate sometimes. I do let it die sometimes. Those are good moments. But I'll miss something. And I work in the business of news. Something could happen. Like somebody might really need to get in contact with me.
Yeah.
And, I'm not extremely close to all of my family. So, I try to make myself accessible to them. But I can miss something important. So I really don't know how to set boundaries. Everybody knows I go to bed what time, folks? Around 7 p.m. So if you call me at or text me or call me at 8, it's just not happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really hard for me to create those boundaries because, people say, oh, you could do this at 2 or 3. I am out of it by that point.
Right. You're very tired.
It's that at that point, that's 12 hours of being awake. But it's also 12 very strange hours of being awake. It's not normal to wake up at 2 a.m.
Yeah. So, what do you tell people?
Sorry, I was asleep.
Yeah. Or you can be proactive.
Yeah.
And you did this with me, and you're really good at this. I don't think you're giving yourself credit. Is that you told me, you know what? I get up at 3 a.m. So if we're going to do this, if we're going to communicate, it has to be before 3 p.m. Communicating your boundaries is really, really important.
And sometimes I can't guarantee a response after 3 p.m.
Yeah. And I have a couple of friends that they're like you. They don't like to text. So I know that if I want to have a real connection with them, I need to call them. But they also understand with me that I don't have time for long phone conversations. But we wouldn't know that if we didn't talk about it. You can't have boundaries. People can't respect your boundaries.
If you don't create them.
If you don't let them know about them.
Yeah, it's like holding somebody accountable to something that they have no idea.
Yeah.
I tend to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
I think because it's done to me sometimes too. That's an excuse. But
right.
Justifying my behavior.
Well, and that's part of what we're talking about today. We're talking about people out on the roads being aggressive. We're talking about kids having so much stress from transitioning into school again. My daughter she's an 8th grader. She is home from school today because the stress of being in an overcrowded school and starting marching band with a marching band instructor who is not being kind and supportive it's just too much for her. So she's staying home because she is having almost a breakdown. And it's just a week and a half in. Wow. That's how stressful this is for this child. That's her thing. But one of the things that I find really helps is to think about the things that are going on around us that we're grateful for. So I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday. We were taking a walk. I needed some exercise, and it was great to get out. The weather was beautiful. But we were talking about how our neighborhood, because it has become so crowded and because the infrastructure that was promised isn't there yet, has become very aggressive. And we were talking about how the negativity is kind of pulsing in the neighborhood. But then as we're walking along this path, a mom goes by in her stroller and she takes a rock, and I'll have to explain what the rocks are, and she puts it in the nook of a tree. And Cane Bay is the name of the neighborhood I live in. Cane Bay has something called Cane Bay Rocks, and it's these women, and maybe some men, women that I know of, that they paint rocks and all sorts of adorable things.
Oh, and they put the little messages on them?
They put messages on them.
I love those.
And they hide them all over. I mean, we found one at Target in Azalea Square. So she had put a rock in the tree, and I picked it up, and I didn't take it. You're supposed to take them, but I want to leave them for the kids. And it said, be the light in the darkness.
See the forest through the trees.
Right?
Yes.
So that is so much more important to me than the guy who honked at me because I let somebody pull out into traffic.
So basically, I think in summary is when we find ourselves in these stressful moments, is to not let that moment be more than that.
Not let that moment be more than what is important to us, what really serves us. And I've had people make snarky comments about, well, I feel better when I give somebody the bird. But you know what? You really don't. And if that's what your value is, if your value is to make other people feel bad, then that value is going to come back to you, and that you are also going to be made to feel bad. I asked Megan if we could talk about Toni Morrison today, because she passed last week. And if you're watching this video and you don't know who Toni Morrison is,
Google her.
Google her
Quickly.
She is a voice of amazingness.
Mm-hmm.
This is a woman who is writing about the value of humanity, the value of humankind, at a time when especially women, especially African American women, were not allowed to speak about these things. This is mid-century United States. And to me, the essence of all stress relief, the essence of all mindfulness, mindset, empowerment, all the stuff that I talk about is valuing humankind. That if we can value our neighbors, then we don't have to be upset on the road. We don't have to honk at people. We can pull off a little bit to let somebody go, because we want those people to feel okay. We don't want
We have
them.
to get back to caring about other people.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we live in a society, especially people around my age, they tend to think that not caring is cute, or it's cool, or it's the trendy thing to do. I will forever care about the way I make people feel. I will forever care about what people think about me, because it matters. And I work with people. I work for people. I work for you guys. I don't work for me. So if I'm doing something that makes you uncomfortable and makes you unhappy, then I need to self-reflect and take a look at myself and see if there's something that I need to adjust within myself. Yes, the whole unbothered thing is annoying. Yeah, people acting like they're so unbothered. Now, what I won't do...
Did you say unbothered?
Yeah, people who act unbothered about everything. Like if
They're just blasé.
Nothing bothers me. I don't even
yeah.
care. I think it's rather annoying to be that way. I think you should care about the way you make people feel. I think to a certain extent you should care about what people think. Now, what I don't believe is that you should be consumed with people's thoughts too much, because especially with people's negative thoughts. I don't consume myself with negative thoughts of others because it's insulting to the many people who support me.
Sure, yeah.
And so I just, why would I let one person who doesn't pay me attention in this area consume me when I am supported and loved by so many?
Well, and as public figures, we get a lot of trolls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
A lot.
Yeah. I have people say, I think I talked about this before.
People refer to me as girl a lot. I'm a woman. I just want you guys to know that.
People refer to my weight a lot,
Yeah.
but the people are not going to take me seriously because I'm supposedly fat.
Yeah.
Right? So, when we're talking about being self-aware, it's not about taking on people's negativity. But one of the things I learned when I was teaching in the university system was that I could learn so much from the constructive criticism of my students. I learned how to be a better teacher. And so every year when we were giving out evaluations, I would tell them, if you guys write ugly things on there about me and how you hate my personality, I'm not going to care about that. I'm not going to read it. But if you want to write something about you had a professor do something in another class that it was really helpful to your learning and you want to share that with me, I would love that. Please do that.
Yeah.
So
I think people don't understand the value in their words.
Yeah. Words hurt. They do. And
Sticks and Stones, you seen that on Netflix yet? No, let's not talk about that.
I don't know what that is.
but yeah, Sticks and Stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt me is the biggest lie ever told.
Biggest lie ever told. Yeah.
Hello, Troy. Happy birthday. But yeah, okay.
Happy birthday, Troy.
Jennifer, thank you so much. Wellness Wednesdays has been pretty cool doing this. And I hope that we are giving you guys some tips that can help you guys in your day-to-day life. Today, I hope you walk away knowing that you don't have to be stressed and don't let stress consume you. And that whole counting to 10 thing, may sound cliche, but it's a real thing and it works.
And the breath is the most important part.
Woosah. And then also being mindful of trying to make sure that you care about other people's feelings. It's okay to care about other people's feelings, and making sure that with something, your actions aren't being toxic to someone else, because you don't want somebody else to be toxic to you. And what else did we say?
Well, and valuing yourself.
Yes.
Valuing yourself and valuing others. And I will talk about this repeatedly. You guys are going to be like, shut up, Jen, you're like a broken record. But it is the most important stress management tip we can use.
Yeah. What do you place value on?
What do you place value on? So we had talked about come up with some ideas of what you want to talk about. I want to invite you guys to go on to peacefullivingwellness.com. That's my online magazine. It's free. You know,
we'll post it in the comments.
We'll post it in the comments.
And her page is tagged in the original post, so go ahead and click over to her page as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that as well. And take a look at some of the blogs on there. Take a look at some of the topics that are being covered, because you might see something and go, oh, wow, I'd really love for them to talk about that on Wellness Wednesday, something that reaches out to you. Again, we want this to be for you, not just for us. And let us know how we can speak to your needs.
Okay. All right, you guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful Wednesday, and I will see you guys later. Like, love, share this video. Toodaloo.